Hi, my name is Edgar Arceneaux. I'm an artist, and I've been working both in the studio and also doing work, um, making work out in neighborhoods with families in the social space for about 15 years now. I also co-founded with Sue Bell Yank Watts House Project, which is a artist-driven neighborhood redevelopment organization that is centered in the neighborhood surrounding the Watts Towers. And there what we were doing was coupling artists, architects, and family members within the neighborhood, within collaborative teams towards the transformation of the neighborhood. We're focusing specifically on people's homes. So we began with facade improvements like fences and driveways and repainting people's homes. And then slowly over time, the aims of the project started to evolve to include things that would affect the inside of the home, trying to build capacity for people who live there so they can increase their employment with their jobs. One of the questions is, how do I define social practice today? And to be honest, it's not really a term that I use. It's a relatively new kind of categorization of this work. And when I began on the project back in 1996, the term didn't really exist. I was sort of an apprentice. I was working underneath Rick Lowe, who was the founder of Project Row Houses in Houston. And, it was really about using the arts as a vehicle for neighborhood revitalization and seeing artists as really good problem solvers. The term, to me, it tends to frame, social practice tends to frame this activity squarely within the space of contemporary art practice. And the thing that I think that really gives it its agency is that it's operating amongst a moment, a cultural moment, a social moment, in which we're in which a lot of different fields are thinking about things within this incubator mode, or trying to imagine themselves operating expansively through creating partnerships in ways in which they might not normally consider. One of the things that we found ourselves focusing on was physical improvements, and that the community meetings and the relationships that we were building with the families was a way for us to bring about the physical improvements. But over time, I'd come to realize that unless we were changing the nature of the interactions amongst the participants, then the infrastructure, the improvements of infrastructure is only going to take you so far. And if we weren't creating an atmosphere in which when people entered, if they weren't feeling that shift, then we weren't really building very much community at all. These activities that artists are doing within this practice of working collaboratively or cooperatively, or working in these open spaces, are dependent upon some sort of organizational structure for them to function. And that organizational structure, I say it's like an organism, right? It's like a body, and that thing must be fed. And there's only a few ways in which that organization can be fed. If you decide that you want to create a nonprofit, then you have to get the IRS involved. And this is where the systemic issue comes in, is that because you're getting money which is being donated as tax exempt, there's laws that are created to ensure that that money is used properly, that it's not used as a vehicle for laundering money or being used illegally. But these legal structures, these very rules that are set up to ensure that a public enterprise like a nonprofit is meant to be part of a diffuse value, for artists, it can actually create a situation in which you can feel yourself being strangled by the rules, the regulations, and the protocols for you to actually then try to do your work. I think that this is a major issue, and that the financial architectures for artists today aren't really set up to deal with the reality of how we actually operate, with the reality of the incredible amounts of debt that most graduates from art school are having to take on in the front end, to the ways in which foundations have certain sort of expectations to be able to build support. So there has to be some other structure which is put into place which allows for the real power of the arts to be able to generate its own support, as well as being able to rely upon subsidy as well, but to be able to be self-supporting, I think is one of the major challenges facing most of these activities today.